Morning, welcome, and thank you for joining me for week 2 of our 52 weeks of project recipes. My name is Denise Cowell, and I am your Creative Memories advisor. So tonight, let's get onto our desk so we can see what we're going to do. We are working on project recipe 2 of the book. If you don't have the book, feel free to go to my Scrapbook with Denise Facebook group and download the project recipe for pumpkin spice. I am going to be using the pumpkin spice paper pack. It is from 2018, but let's walk through the tools, what we need, and what we're going to be doing. So we will need your 12-inch trimmer. We're going to be using the border maker with a knockout style punch. And I'll explain the 3 different types of punches in a minute. And you'll need the housing. We are also going to be using a chain style standalone border maker for this also. Um, so let's talk about the 3 types of border maker cartridges. There is, like I said, the knockout style, which will just punch some of the paper out into a design. This one is the garland. It's an older punch, and then we will trim it down. Then there's the chain style punch, which will just punch out a chain, right? It'll detach itself from the paper. And then there's an edge style, right? So this will punch a border along the edge, and then we will also trim it down. We'll be using all 3 over the next 52 weeks. We also have standalone punches, and again, this one is a chain style. They do come in all 3, as I said, as the same as the border maker system. They do come in a knockout, in a chain, as well as an edge. And I'll show you how to use both today. You will also need 5 sheets of paper, and 2 of them will be for your background. So you'll need 2 cardstock. 1 of those will be for your background, and then 3 pieces of designer paper. Again, 1 of them for the background, and 2 of them that you will be using both sides of. If you're using paper that's not double-sided, then you'll need to double up on some of your paper. Let's take a look at the project recipe so that we can understand what we're cutting. And again, if you want to, when we cut, if you want to use your Post-it notes with the letters to line them up, then that would be great. So paper number 1, designer paper number 1 is the green. And you can see that we're going to be using it. It's green here, right? Green is going to be underneath. And then we're going to be having pieces B and C. Okay, so for me, I am going to use the same green color that they have. Just happens to be green and green. That does not happen all the time. Paper number 2, designer paper number 2, we're going to be using both sides of the orange here. So for me, it will be the orange, and I will have the dark orange on one side and the light orange on the other side. And our third piece, it says black cardstock. For me, I'm going to be using brown cardstock. Okay, now we see down here it says using the garland border maker, punch a border along the side. Okay, that is going to be for J. So that's where we're going to be using the border maker later on. And A and I, we are actually going to be using the on the vine. J is where we're just going to punch part of it with the border maker. Okay, so let's get our paper out and let's start cutting. And I'm going to use the paper version of the project recipe. So for me, it is going to be the green, which is my designer paper number 1. Now, if your paper is directional, make sure that you turn your paper. So I want my paper to be cut this way, 3 by 12. So I have to make sure that I rotate it to get that properly. So the first thing we're going to do is getting our standalone punch. We're going to punch a border. Now, if you haven't used this before, you'll see inside that there are 2 black lines. All right, that's for you to line your paper up. So again, because I'm going to cut my paper this way, I want to rotate it because my 3 by 12 is going to be cut this way. So we're going to go this way. So I'm going to cut my 3 by 12, and you can do that too. If you're thinking, going, I don't know which way I want to cut my border, how do I do that? Let's make our first 3 by 12 cut first. If we go over here, I'm going to cut piece B first, just making sure that I've got my paper lined up the right way. Okay, so there's where I want my 3 by 12. That's the direction I want my paper. Let's just put that to the side for a minute. Now I'm going to come back and cut A. Now I know that this is how I want to cut my paper, that I'm going to have it the right direction. I'm lining my paper up, and I like going right to left. And this border maker gets stuck a little bit. Make sure you go slow with one of these that are very delicate. I've lined it up with the black line I showed you. Now you're just going to move it along, and you're going to line your punch up with the blue part. All right, so here we go. So we're going to line this up, and we're just going to keep punching. Go slowly. This one does have a tendency to get stuck. So, and I have a tendency to go too quickly. So let's make sure that we just are going slowly on this. And let's move this out of my way so I don't get stuck on it. Okay, and line it up. Take your time to line it up. You don't need to go quickly. So there's our piece A. I already have piece B cut, so I cut that to start with. Okay, so let's go and see what's next. So now our piece C, we need that punch back, so I'll just move it to the side, and we will get rid of our excess punch pieces. Piece D is another 3 by 12. Okay, that will be piece C. Now, if you're not cutting mats, you can not cut this one at the time. We should have a 4.5-inch piece left, which I do. It's 4.5. We're going to rotate that, pull out the arm. Now, on the back of the 12-inch trimmer, you'll notice that there's a little foot. When you bring your arm out, make sure you open that foot up. It keeps it level. So we're going to rotate this 4.5-inch piece and cut this at 6.5 inches. This will be piece D, and this will be extra. Okay, so let us do piece D. So let's go on to designer paper 2, and again, mine is directional. It is going to be along this side, so I can cut my paper in the same direction. We're going to be using 3.5. Now it says reverse. You can determine once you get these pieces down which way you want them to go. The next piece is going to be 2 inches out of this one. So we've got and that's E and F if you are labeling them. E is your big one, then F. Again, the other pieces coming up is going to be a mat. Piece G is a mat. So if you're not cutting mats, don't cut this at this time. But I am going to cut it at 4.5. This piece on the right will be extra, so just put that to the side. We'll open this up, and now we're cutting it at 6.5, and then this will be one of our mats. This is piece G. And then as you can see, we need a 4 by 2.5. Let's just slide our paper in without rotating it right now because this piece is 4.5. We're going to cut this at 2. This piece on the right is extra, so you can put that aside. We're going to rotate this, and we are going to cut this down to 4. Okay, so that is piece H. And one more, we're going to punch one more time with the brown cardstock, which is piece paper 3, and we're going to cut one border. Now, depending on the border that you are using, if you didn't use a chain and you use an edge, you would have to cut this out. But where it says punch then cut, we are punching our border, and if you needed to cut it, then you would cut it down afterwards. But again, since we have a chain, this one does not need to be cut down after. And again, as I said, this one has a tendency to get stuck, and I went too fast. So I'm just going to use my multi-purpose tool, and I am going to get these leaves that are stuck pushed down so that they will come out. And again, this is fine. Just take your time. Again, I was going a little too quickly with this, which is why those little leaves got stuck. So just give me 1 minute to get that unstuck. And if you're too frustrated, we have extra paper, and in the essence of time, I will just kind of pull that out and I will cut another one. And that happens, and not to worry about it. I'm going to trim this down and I'm going to start again and go a little bit slower this next time. And not all the punches do that. This one is very delicate, and usually it happens on the designer paper, not the cardstock. So I'm just going to go a little bit slower. And again, if I would have taken the time, and it's always this last one, there we go. If I would have taken the time, I could have got it out of there, but let's just keep going. So there's our second. We're done with that punch. And then what we need now is a 6 by 9 inch piece. So I'm going to open my arm up again, make sure I have that foot out. We're going to go 6, and we're going to rotate this at 9 inches. Okay, these two pieces here are extra. We're done with our trimmer, but we have one more thing to punch, and we're going to get our border maker cartridge out. Now, the 2 feet, when you're putting it in the housing, the 2 feet come outward, so your picture should always be on the front. This is the paper holder. Normally we would be doing a 12-inch piece, but we are only going to punch on the 6-inch edge, which means that we are going to only need 3 punches. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we have everything cut that we need. I'll just clean up, and let's bring out our 2 base pages. So we have for me, I have the polka dot one on the left, and I have the cardstock on the right. And I'll just move those up. And I want to get my 13-inch mats because I like to line everything up. It helps me line up my paper a little bit easier. So let's get, I'm going to do the right-hand side first because it is the easiest one. And we are going to be using pieces B and C. All right, so let's go back to the project recipe. I'm going to do the right-hand side. I need B and C. Those are our 3-inch pieces. B is going to go on the top. Then we're going to have C, and that will go at the bottom. And all I need on this piece is piece G, which is for me from designer paper 1. And that will be our mat. And actually just looking for our photos on that side, I'm going to attach this off camera. This one is pretty simple for this side. We will have a 4-inch for a 4 by 6. And then I need piece H, which was the small, and this will be where we will put our title. So that side is complete. So now let's go to our left-hand side. And for this one, I'm going to show you a little bit more. We're going to get my silicone mat out. And if you don't have a silicone mat, you can just use a baggie, and this is for the repositionable tape runner. So let's just start though with our first border. So piece E is going to go down, and it goes down at about 1 inch. So that's E. F is going to go on top, and it's going to go about 1/2 of an inch. So I'm doing it between 2 and 4. Okay. Piece J is supposed to go straight to the edge, and it will go between the 3 and the 9 inches. It should overlap this orange piece so that you get the light color coming through our knockout punch. Piece D is one of our mats, and then we need to put these 2 borders together. And let me move this up so that you can watch. I'm going to use repositionable tape runner, and I'm going to use it on my silicone mat. Using the regular tape runner on this will not go well. It will show through. This one has kind of invisible little dots, and using it on this silicone mat, it won't stick to anything. So we'll do that. And then this is going to be a shadow. And here it is saying for us to put I on top of A, which for me, I'm doing it opposite because I want my darker color behind. So take a look before you make your shadow, which way you put them together. And this repositionable tape runner is working well. And if you get something down incorrectly, you can pull it up, right? So you can pull it up and take it apart if you need to, so you can move it. What I'm going to do is let's get this page lined up over here. And I use Repo way more than I use regular. I use it quite a bit. Because again, if I don't get this lined up, I'm lining it up between the 1 and the 4.5. And I can line that up at the top at the 11, 8.5. And if I don't get it lined up correctly, or where I want it, then you can always move it with the Repo. Okay, this one we had it a 1/2 of an inch, I think. So I lined up. The end of this is at 4 inches and 8. And I just want to double check if we put this down. Yes, it is coming through nicely. So we can attach this piece J, and I'm using regular on this one, but I will use Repo through this top where we have the punch, and then it'll help it stick down and it won't show through. So again, we're lining this up at the 3 and the 9 at the edge, and it should overlap there. Now, the last, our border, it's going to cover this seam. So what we're going to do, again, I'm going to be using Repo on the back, and this one is almost out. Again, on my mat. Again, if you don't have the mat, you can use a plastic bag. If you use your table, make sure that you wipe it off right away. And Repo does eventually get not permanent, but it will stick. Okay, so there we have it. And let me just get the last of the two. I'm going to move this down a little bit so that you can see this. And we'll get our last 2 photos, and I'll finish this online and I will post it. I actually have pictures for this. I do like this layout because all the pictures are 4x6s, which means we can use peekaboo pockets. So instead of just having 5 pictures, you can have multiple peekaboo pockets. So I will complete this offline and add the pictures and post it in my Scrapping with Denise Facebook page, which is a private page, so you can post pictures, your layout with pictures there. So hope you like that. You can see now from here we can put some embellishments down here. We can put our title up on this side. So I hope you enjoyed that project recipe today. Next week we will be working on project recipe 3. So if you have the book, you can take a look at Project Recipe 3. We're going to be using different punches next week. I will have the Mermaid Cove post, which is where this was originally from, posted before next week's live. So hope you had a good time. Keep scrapping, happy scrapping, and we will see you all again soon.